I must say that I first saw this news and thought it was pretty wonderful. That's my first reaction when it comes to it. Now, why is that the case, right? Well, it's because not too long ago, when it comes to caffeine, or should I say caffeine AI, they made a post on X and it was talking about how caffeine can search the web. Now, why is this a pretty cool thing? Well, it's because that right there, I think, is a pretty impressive achievement when it comes to caffeine. Because let's just think about this. Before, right, to my understanding, if, like, let's say someone was using that and then they would say to, caffeine that, they would like to add weather info to an app or something like that, supposedly it was going to kind of like guess based on what it already knows. However, now, if it needs like fresh information, like let's say finding a weather API, it's basically like a tool to get real-time weather data or a code, for example, for in the case of GitHub, and they kind of even reference this in this, post, I would say, right? Now, what caffeine does is that it searches the web right then and there, supposedly, and uses the latest results to help kind of build the app, right? Because, of course, Caffeine AI is this self-writing apps platform, basically could help developers use AI to build applications, allegedly. So I think this is a pretty cool thing. It's a cool, I think, a little bit of an upgrade. That's the way to take a look at it. Yeah, I would call it an upgrade, actually, because when it comes to something like again, caffeine AI, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's not really that polished yet. Sometimes people like to say, oh, it's not that fantastic yet, and all this type of stuff. It's just cool that they announced it, but who really cares about it? But now it seems like there is some effort there to kind of improve it, right? So I do like seeing that. I don't think that caffeine is just this thing that they treat as just kind of for fun and all this type of stuff. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice and I'm not telling you to do anything, but I feel like Dfinity and the Internet Computer, in terms of the fundamentals, in terms of kind of the perceived sort of things that they're doing, for me, it's come quite a long way from when I first started holding it. Or should I say when I first started holding ICP? Let me correct myself there, because when it comes to back then, this type of stuff was kind of nowhere even talked about in my perspective, at least to my understanding, like at least that I heard of. But now they're at least doing stuff like this. So I do like seeing that. Again, a lot of my friends out there, they kind of thought that, okay, caffeine AI, when it comes to something like their computer, when it comes to Dfinity, they're just going to do it for fun, but are they really going to put the effort? Are they really going to kind of, help it develop and maybe, become better? They were kind of questioning that. But now that I see something like this, it kind of showcases to me that when it comes to, again, caffeine can supposedly, or should I say caffeine AI can search the web, that's still pretty interesting to me. It shows that they even care about these small details, I would say. Now, is there a lot to improve? I mean, in theory, there is always something that could be improved in this case, I would say, but to me, I still like seeing that nonetheless. Now, sometimes people like to tell me that, oh, when it comes to this, the adoption isn't necessarily the best. Well, I'm totally aware that during a time like this, the adoption probably isn't going to be the best, right? Because let's just take this into perspective. Yes, ICP had a pretty okay recovery, like from below the price of $3 that we saw not too long ago. But I'm saying, generally speaking, altcoins are not doing the best, right? So if let's say altcoins are not doing the best, would there be this kind of uptick, I would say, in developers that want to launch applications, especially in this case, maybe using Caffeine AI to help them do that? I would arguably say that it's probably not going to be as good if, let's say, the market was a lot better when it comes to altcoins. It's like, for instance, there's other projects out there that sometimes pop up when the market is doing a lot better, which is why I think that sometimes, because of the timing of the launch, right, it may not necessarily be the best, but then I still think it's actually the right timing nonetheless, even though it's not the best, because this is going to play into, I think, the narrative of the Internet Computer and Dfinity moving forward, because sometimes during an altcoin season, people take a look at stuff like this, right? They take a look back and say, oh, wow, the project did this, they did that. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the perfect timing, but I don't think it's necessarily bad either, because I think it's the right timing for them, especially for the longevity of the project, at least in my perspective. And now also on top of that as well, people like to say, oh, but again, there isn't quote unquote mass adoption. Well, here's the thing. Even despite the conditions of the altcoin space as of right now, allegedly I saw that there was already over 700 applications built with Caffeine AI so far. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, again, like that's considering how altcoins are not necessarily doing the best. And I already talked about barbecue, for instance, in my last video when it comes to their computer. Now people may be thinking, oh, what do you mean barbecue, right? Well, it's kind of this post showcasing how just a simple prompt to kind of make a site about a startup barbecue thing. Caffeine AI was already able to do a pretty okay job. So yeah, that's the barbecue thing I was referencing. But besides that point, when it comes to that, it kind of showcased sort of the hypothetical capabilities of something like Caffeine AI. Now, was the barbecue site thing that was generated, did it look the coolest? Again, like I mentioned in my previous video? No, I don't think so, actually. I mean, it looked pretty simple, but still, it's pretty impressive what it's able to do nonetheless. And again, when it comes to, again, Caffeine AI, just the concept of it, I don't think it's necessarily anything like groundbreaking like that to me. Like, if let's say my excitement level for that is measured on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say that it's probably like a 7. Like, I think it's really cool for the internet computer. I think it's really cool for Dfinity, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily kind of the most revolutionary thing out there of all time. But still, in the context of what, the journey that the internet computer and Dfinity has been through, I still think it's pretty impressive at the end of the day. I think for what it is, I actually think that it's very impressive, but in the grand scheme of things, probably not the best thing out there of all time, but still, I find it pretty impressive in this case. Because we have to consider, ICP is not like a top 10 thing in terms of project. Like, sometimes this type of stuff, we don't really expect from a project that is not within that type of, top 10 range, right? But still, it's still doing this. So I find it very impressive, and I think it's a testament to what Dfinity has done, despite, again, ICP not being top 10 in terms of, market cap. But I'm saying, I just like what I'm seeing so far. Now, when I take a look at something like, again, ICP, people like to say, oh, have I forgotten about maybe the idea of $100? Well, no, I mean, I'm still thinking about that. And sure, the pullback as of right now when it comes to ICP is not necessarily the best thing, because 100 is now around a 15x from here. But, still, I just wouldn't really find that such a surprising thing, maybe, because when I just take a look at what the internet computer has done so far, when I take a look at the fundamentals of it, and I really do believe that Caffeine AI is probably the biggest thing that's happened to it, historically speaking. So when I see all that, I don't see such a bad thing. And again, even without altcoin season, ICP had a pretty okay recovery, and I think maybe it wouldn't surprise me if hypothetically a lot of it came because of what this notion of what Caffeine AI could be. You know what I mean? So if it's already kind of an okay narrative right now, what narrative would this be for the internet computer, or should I say for ICP during an altcoin season? So this is why I haven't given up. Now, a lot of people like to tell me, oh, when is there going to be an altcoin season and all this? All I can do is just wait, really. I mean, I have no control over that, but still, in the meantime, I'm still waiting. I haven't given up when it comes to ICP because I like seeing stuff like this. I like what they're doing. Keep in mind, if there was no such thing as this, right? If there was no such thing as Caffeine AI, I don't think a lot of people would really even kind of care too much, because the internet computer already had a pretty okay following even before that, right? But still, doing this type of stuff showcases how Dfinity is willing to put that effort. So I do like that. What are they going to do moving forward? I mean, who knows? But this right here is already pretty impressive. If, let's say, Dfinity didn't really do anything anymore, they just stopped that Caffeine AI and just kind of kept improving it, and that's it, I would say that it's pretty okay at the end of the day. I mean, it's still pretty okay for, I think, the next couple years. So, yeah, I mean, what they've done, I think, is pretty impressive. I mean, we'll see the longevity of it, right? When it comes to this, I mean, I'll have to wait and see, but the effort, I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to that. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm just still staying patient. I'm still waiting. But yeah, I just wanted to make a video and just to kind of showcase my thoughts on this and just kind of talk about it real quick. However, I will be making updated videos, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. Feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. I want to say thank you again for watching. I hope you'll have a nice day. And it's Willie the Captain. I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.